doing something quite significant today. I'm putting in a new hedge. This is the little fence between us. The neighbour's house is right there. It's a very quiet little area, but still I thought it'd be nice to create an atmosphere of privacy by having a nice big evergreen hedge. To get it all lined up nicely, I've just put a simple stake in with a piece of string that goes along the line, and that will help me to plant the plants nice and straight. A key consideration in a hedge is what kind of space should there be between each of your plants? Well, it depends. There is a play-off between how close you bring your hedge plants and how quickly you get a hedge and how tall it will grow. So these are all compromises that you make to get the optimum that you're looking for. Here I'm looking for a really high hedge. It has to probably be about 4 or 5 meters to really screen out a house and its full roof line. So I'm looking for a tall hedge. And as I said, it's a long-term project, so if it takes a little while to get established, well, so be it. So you can see I'm going for a very tall plant. It's the Portuguese laurel. It can grow up to 8 meters. I think I'm planning for about a 5-meter hedge, which is a very significant and tall hedge. But for a plant to grow 5 meters, it needs a little bit of space around it for the roots to grow. So if you put, the spacing here I've gone for is 1.5 meters. And there is a kind of a 1/3 rule that you think about here. Think about the height that you want of your end hedge, and then divide that by 3, and that'll give you a rule of thumb of spacing. So I want this to be about 5 meters tall, divided by 3, that's around about 1.5 meters, a little bit more. So if you put them closer together, obviously if you put them 1/2 meter together, then you'll get a much better hedge quicker. But in the end, at 1/2 meter spacing, these significant trees will start to compete with each other for light and especially the roots and water. So they'll become very crowded, and that will stunt the growth of your ultimate hedge. So that's the compromise. If you want it to grow tall, you do need to give some space to your plants, but it will take longer for it to get established. So think about this rule of this 1/3 rule. If you're planting a very small hedge, it's only going to be very short, let's say 1/2 meter tall, then your plants can be really very close together. So once I've established that I do want the plants to be 1.5 meters apart from each other, then every 1.5 meters I make a little mark in my string, and that tells me where I need to dig the hole. It's very important to dig a nice wide hole around your pot. So don't dig a hole that you could just barely squeeze the plant into. The rule of thumb is have your hole twice as wide as the pot. So a nice generous diameter around there. That's going to mean that you'll have loosened soil around the roots, and they'll be able to spread out a lot easier. People say invest as much in the hole as you did in the plant. So if you buy a nice big expensive plant, don't skimp and save on the time that it takes to dig the hole. Give it a generous hole and get it off to a nice start. Soil preparation is really very important. Here you see I put some gypsum in the bottom of this hole. It's a white chalky kind of substance. It will help to break down any clay if you've got clay. If you dig down and you find at the bottom you're digging into clay, then get some gypsum and mix it into the bottom of the hole. There's nothing wrong with clay in itself. It's quite a rich soil. It holds lots of nutrients, but it doesn't drain very well, and so it can. Some plants don't like their roots sitting in water. So this will just help to open up the clay soil and make it easier for most plants to have their roots in. Take the opportunity to improve your soil. I said we just put some gypsum in. Now I'm developing a little mix. I mixed in some mushroom compost, cow manure and peat moss. I mixed all that into a big wheelbarrow, mixed it nice and thoroughly, and that will be a really nice improvement to the soil. It's probably the most important thing you can do when you're planting a new plant, is just improve it with some organic material. This is another wheelbarrow that I filled up from my own compost pile. There's all the kitchen scraps that are composted in big compost bins at the back of the garden. The key to this stuff is that it's full of life. You want your soil to be full of little bugs and organisms. It should be full of life, really. And that's what you get from a compost bin. It's just going to be full of little critters that are going to keep your soil lively. Once you've done all the preparation, the planting is actually a pretty straightforward and simple step. Generally we'll just make sure the bottom of the hole is nice and moist. Give the plant a bit of a water as well. Take the plant out. Just tickle some of the roots. If it looks a little bit pot bound, line the plant up with the mark that we made on the string. Then start to fill around. You mix in some of the dirt that you dug out, some of the compost from the garden, and some of the manure that we bought. Mix that around a bit. Put a bit of water again. And return the mulch that we scraped away before. The height of the plant is just above the soil line. For most plants, as a rule of thumb, plant them just on a centimetre or two above the soil line, so there's a little bit of a mound. There are some exceptions, some plants need to be dug down, but in general, most plants don't like to be suffocated lower than what they were in the pot. They're getting oxygen from those top roots. Well, the plants are all in. What a feeling of satisfaction. It'll be great for the plants, the other animals, everything else really gets a lot of benefit out of a nice big hedge in your garden. Preparation's been done. We are ready for a 50-year program. Nothing quite like having a nice, secure sort of wall around your garden, a wall of green. It just makes it that, in fact, that's the definition of what a paradise means. It means a walled garden. So the hedges, the border of your garden is pretty important to define them nicely. It'll bring privacy, bring a sense of definition and place to the garden, and you'll get a great deal of satisfaction for many years.